This video is brought to you by Dr. Kristen R. Bromley's Guitar Method Book Series and Online Music Academy.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kristen Bromley. Welcome to my online academy. It's so great to have you joining me here in these online lessons. It's a Theory Thursday. I love music theory, don't you? Of course, in this course that I run on Thursdays, we're working on understanding the fretboard better, understanding music better, how we do things on the guitar, all those types of things. Right now, we're working on understanding different types of chords. In this lesson, we're going to look at 11th and 13th chords. So, we've looked at triads, three-note chords, and I put little quotes around it because triads, as far as the more traditional sense, is stacked in thirds, three notes stacked in thirds, like major and minor chords, foundational chords for almost everything that we play. But we also know that we can have three-note chords that are suspended, or we can have augmented and diminished, which are also part of the traditional triads. And then we can have major with a flat 5 or minor with a sharp 5, and these set a foundation for the other types of chords that we end up playing. So then we learned about six chords, meaning when we add that 6 to those triads. Or seventh chords, when we add a major seventh or a minor seventh, so natural 7 or flatted 7th to those chords. We've looked at altering the 5th with those, which does come out of some of those options in those three-note chords. Then in the last lesson, we looked at adding the 9th. What does the 9th look like in relation to those various types of chords? And here we're looking at the 11th and the 13th. Super, super awesome. These types of voicings, if you want to learn them, right now, lots of them are being taught in the jazz course as far as these ones that we've been going over in this lesson and the last couple lessons. And of course, just basic chords are taught all throughout the finger picking, flat picking, and just basic learning to play the guitar courses that are on the channel. So there's lots of places to get help there. Earlier in this Theory Thursday series, there's some lessons that go through how to play major and minor chords all over the fretboard, how to create them. So that goes into much greater detail, a lot of deep approaches compared to what's taught in just the regular old playing courses. So lots of places to get help with how to play these voicings. There's also some quick answer videos that go over how to play various voicings on the guitar. So lots of places on the channel to get help there. Here we're just going to be discussing the theory of it. Now, 9th, 11th, and 13th chords. These are upper extensions. So, in the last lesson we learned how the 9th is the same as the 2nd, only it's one octave higher. So, C to D is a major 2nd. If I go one octave higher, that's the 9th. Or we also know we've got the D flat. So that minor 2nd can be a minor 9th, or we can actually have a sharp 9, which is an augmented 9. So an augmented 2nd up to that D sharp, so up to that augmented 9, sharp 9. So those are the ones we looked at in the last lesson. Now as we continue with this upper extension idea, the 11th is the same as the 4th. So if I'm in C, I'm going from C to F, so the 11th, that was the 4th, perfect 4th. Up there one octave higher. We could also have the augmented 11th, so a sharp 4. It's the tritone sound. And we get to the 13th. The 13th is the same as the 6th, only it's an octave higher. And we can have a flat 13, so a flat 6, A flat, up to that. So that's our flat 13. So let's look at the most common ways these are used. I do have down here on the bottom of the board, if it helps to see that visual, we have the sharp 11, the natural 11, the 13, and the flat 13. So the sharp 11 works best against the major 3rd. The natural 11 creates a half step there, doesn't work as well. So most often we're going to see a sharp 11 used when it's a major chord. So that's our major 7th and dominant 7th chords usually. The natural 11 works really great against the minor 3rd. So we're going to see that one over the minor major 7th chords or the minor 7th chords the most. The natural 13 can work against any of them, whether they be major or minor. So the major chords, and of course that 11th can go with the minor 7th as well. So the minor chords, we get that 11th. The 13th can go against the major chords or the minor chords, so any of them. And then the flat 13 is usually used against an altered dominant chord for the most part. So we'll kind of go through these. So this is the thing about 9th. We learned in the 9th chord that we can add that right to a triad and get an add 9 chord. We can add it to the suspensions. We can add it to any of those different things. And then we can add it to the 7th chords. We can add it to the 6th chords. So we have 6 9 chords and then we have 7th chords where the 9th is added on. So lots of different places the 9th is added, but when we get to the 11th and the 13th, they tend to only be used for the most part, almost entirely, just with 7th chords. And for the most part, they get used with the 7th chords that just have a natural 5. The one exception is with the altered dominants, which I'll go over just a little bit. So we're going to see these sounds with our major 7th chord, more commonly known as our major 7th, our dominant 7th chord, which is the major minor 7th chord, our minor major 7th chord, and our minor 7th chord. That's the places we're going to see the 11ths and the 13ths used the most, and we're just stacking these chords tall. So let's look at the major 7th chord first, our major 7th chord. This one has the root, the major 3rd, just natural 3rd, the 5th, the 7th, the 9th, and then as we stack higher, the sharp 11 and 13. And so this is the way it works. As we stack taller, we expect anything previous to it can be in the chord. So as we stack up to the 9, we know the 7, 5, 3 root can be there. If we stack up to the sharp 11, that means the 9, 7, 5, 3 and root will be there, or can be there. If we stack up to the 13, 13 sharp 11, 9, 7, 5, 3 root could be in the chord. And when I say could be in the chord, that's 7 pitches. We don't have 7 strings on the guitar. So when it comes to playing the guitar, we cannot play all the pitches. Which ones are the important ones? Well, with these chords, the root, 3rd, and 7th are essential. So we have to have a root, otherwise we don't have the pitch that sort of defines what key we're in, and how the other notes relate to the root is where we get the different types of sounds that we get. So that's super, super important. So we got that root, the 3rd, and the 7th. The 5th, the perfect 5th, is omittable. And actually with the way the overtone series works, a lot of times we won't even miss it. We'll still sort of sense it or hear it because of the overtone series anyway. But the 5th is omitted. And with 11th and 13th chords, it almost always is omitted because the sharp 11 and 13 are on the same strings. The 9th could be omitted if we're stacking higher, like the sharp 11 chord could have the 9th in it, or it doesn't have to have the 9th in it. It just depends on how we're going to voice it. The 13th chord could have the sharp 11 and the 9th, but it doesn't have to. So any one of these up top, any of these upper extensions can be added to a 7th chord without each other, just having one of them, or in combination with one or more of those. Now, most of the time on the guitar, if we're going to have more than one, we're going to have the 11 and the 9 together, or the 13 and the 9 together. We're not usually going to have the 13 and the 11th together, whether it be a sharp 11 or a natural 11, because those ones are usually on the same string, so we can only voice one or the other. And then we get our chord symbols. So our chord symbols for the major 7th with the sharp 11, because it's got that sharp 11, we're going to see something in front of that 7 telling us it's major. We'll have that 7 there, and then we'll see sharp 11. When it's the 13th, though, it's not confusing because there's no sharp in front of that 13. We'll just see something in front of the 13 telling us, oh, it's that major 7th sound. And then the 13 replaces the 7 in the chord symbol the same way that the 9 did in the chord symbol. So if I stack these up, you got root, 3, 5, 7, 9, sharp 11, 13. In the key of C, C, E, G, B, D, F sharp, A. Those are all the notes in that voicing, which is super cool. We cannot finger all of them, but if I go up just major 7 with the sharp 11, we get that one there. Or if I want that nice sound with that 13, I can also easily throw that 9th on top as well. Sharp 11 I kinda can if I use my thumb. So pretty chord there with that sharp 11, and then 13 with that 9th on top. So very, very, very gorgeous sounds, and in the jazz course you can learn how to play these. There's different lessons in there that help you get different ways of playing these sounds, which is super fun. So if you want help with that, check that out. So the dominant 7th chord then, the only difference between these two is the 7th is flatted or minor. So we have a major chord with a minor 7th. So we're going to see all the same types of things. Sharp 11 and 13, the 9, flat 7 is there. We can omit the 5th. All the same principles apply here, except that with the dominant chord, this is where we will get altered dominant sounds. Flat 9, sharp 9, flat 13. Let's look at just the natural one first. So with this chord we have the root, the 3, the 5, the flat 7, the 9, the sharp 11, and the 13. Would stack that really tall. the key of C, that's C, E, G, B flat, D, F sharp, A. Just like that. Now, with that, if I voice this with that dominant 7, there's the sharp 11 sound. Or here's the 13th sound. I can easily throw that 9th on top with that 13th. With the sharp 11, I can if I cheat it with my thumb here. So you can get the 9th in there sometimes, but you can't always get the 13th and sharp 11 together. That's a tricky thing to do. Okay, so with the altered dominants then, we know that we can have a flat 9 or a sharp 9. We learned about that in the last lesson. We also know that we can have those sharp and flat 9s in combination with the sharp or flat 5, which I haven't included here because we're looking at the 11th and 13th. And I want to point out that a sharp 11 is the same pitch as the flat 5. So that's important when we're playing the guitar and interpreting chord symbols, because we can't play a sharp 11 and a natural 5. They sit next to each other. Maybe there's a voicing out there some way that we could do it, but we don't commonly do that. Sharp 11, natural 5 sit right next to each other on the same string. The flat 5, sharp 11 is going to give us the same pitch. So the chords that we play are interchangeable, whether it's written, the chord symbol is written with a sharp 11 or a flat 5. We're going to be playing the same voicings either way. So the flat 13 is actually the same as the sharp 5, so the same kind of thing there. If the chord symbol is written with a sharp 5 and an altered 9th in there, we would go for the same voicing as we would as if it had a flat 13 and an altered 9. So they're interchangeable that way, but we can't have a flat 13 written here, and you're going to have the C7 and then flat 13 thrown in there when you have that type of a chord symbol. When we have if you have flat 13, flat 9, or flat 13 against a sharp 9, you could have that there. Of course, you could also have C7, sharp 5, sharp 9, or sharp 11, sharp 9, sharp 11, flat 9. You could have those options up there as well, and you would have the different ones, the different sounds that you get. But they work the same as having the altered 9ths with the altered 5ths, which we worked on or discovered a lot in the last lesson. But here we are with a 13th chord, and then you get that flat 13, just like that. And I can run that flat 13 against a flat 9 or against a sharp 9. So you get some different options there. I could run that sharp 11 against a flat 9 as well, or against a sharp 9 if I can reach it. So those sounds exist, and they're the same sounds in essence. So when I do that flat 13, it's the same sound as the sharp 5. So I can have that sharp 5 against that flat 9, or flat 13 against the flat 9. It could be written either way. And then same thing, sharp 5 or flat 13 against that sharp 9. And then flat 5 or sharp 11 against that flat 9, or against that sharp 9. Either way. So that's how those work. Now with the minor chords, the minor major 7th chords, and with the dominants is really the only place that we tend to run into the altered 13th very often. You might see it against a major chord on occasion. It is possible to have these same kinds of things against any of these, but that dominant chord is where you see the alterations the most. The minor major 7th, with this one we're going to have that natural 11, and we could have the natural 13. So minor major, we're going to have the natural 7. So we have the root, flat 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 13. So root, flat 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 13. Sorry, grab the extra 5. So 1, flat 3, in the key of C, we've got C, E flat, then the G, natural 5, B, natural 7, D, natural 9, F, natural 11, and then the 13th is that A. Kind of an interesting sound. So if I go ahead and throw on the 11th with a minor major 7th, we got that there. If I want to stack it with the 3rd or the 9th as well, I'm just gonna get it there, just like that. I could potentially play it here a little easier. So minor major 7th with the 9th and the 11th there. Kind of an interesting sound. Then I could also do it with the 13th, and you can get the 13th and the major 7th in there. major 7th with the 13th and the 9th. So that's that sound, which is a really interesting sound. We don't hear that one very often, but we sometimes do run into this chord. It's got its own interesting beauty. Alright, so the minor 7th chord, the one that we do see a lot, the minor 7th chord, that is, because it's got the flatted 3rd and the flatted 7th. So in the key of C, we'd have C, E flat, G, B flat, and then those upper extensions are the same as they are for minor major 7th. So D, F, and A. C, E flat, G, B flat, D, F, A in this key. So interesting sound here. Now if I throw on that 11th, there's the minor 11th, and I can get that minor 11th maybe with the there. I could also do the minor 11th right here with that 9th on there. Pretty cool sounding chord. And then if I want the 13th, oops, and I can throw that 13th on top with that 9th as well, which is kind of cool. Down here, big stretch, but I've got that option as well. So that's a minor 7th chord with a 13th. With these two types on the chord symbol, you're going to see C, something telling us it's a minor chord, so a minus sign or a small m. Then something telling us it's major, like a triangle or a capital letter M, and they're going to see the number 11, and then the number 13, depending on what's being specified. And then for just the minor chord, you're not going to see something in front of the number telling us it's major. So you'll see C, lowercase m, or a minus sign telling us, oh, it's a minor chord, and then you're just going to see the 11 and the 13. Something consistent with all of these chord symbols except the sharp 11 is that the number 11, 9, or 13 simply replaces the 7 in the chord symbol, so we don't have to see 9, 7 and have both of those written there, or 13, 11, 9, 7. We don't need all those numbers. We just write the highest number and then we know that we can stack back, and that replaces it. The sharp 11 would be confusing, so we throw the 7 in front of it and then put the sharp 11 on there. So another thing to know, that in practice, sometimes, like if you're reading lead sheets or playing in a context, especially in, say, a jazz context, or when you're getting some of the more jazz type sounds even into pop music or folk music or whatever it may be, you can throw these sounds on even when the chord symbol doesn't specify it. So a lot of times with jazz music, for example, the lead sheet will just have it at the most basic version, which is usually going to be the 7th. We're just going to have the 7th written on those chords: C7, C major 7, C minor 7, C minor major 7, and then a player can choose to throw on 9ths, 11ths, and 13ths in practice. But you can also see the chord symbols get really specific, though we can still interchange colors when that happens as well, because it's an improvisatory music, a music that lives in the moment with what's happening around it, and so we may throw in colors just to color up the way we want to play a certain song in that moment. So pretty cool stuff. Now, we've got these here, as I mentioned. If you want help, check out the jazz course on how to play these. There's lots of different videos coming out that are showing different ways to play these types of chords right now, and there will be in the future as well. So I'm not going to put that specifically on the Theory Thursday lessons, at least right now. We're just going to talk through the theory of these, which I don't do there so much. So you've got that. We're going to take a look next in the theory course here as how we would see these in the different chords that show up in a key. So we've looked at how chord progressions are created in the past. Now that we've talked through lots of different types of chords, we're going to go ahead and take a look in a major key and in a minor key where we might see these types of chords specifically as we stack taller and taller. So that'll be the next thing that we'll be doing in these Theory Thursday lessons, which will be so great. Keep having fun with the guitar. Of course, we got the jazz lessons coming out on Mondays and Wednesdays right now, sometimes on Fridays as well. We got improvisation in the blues, rock, and pop styles on Saturdays, and we got Technique Tuesdays. So lots of new lessons coming out every week, and of course there are hundreds, well over 900 lessons on the channel that can help you with lots of different things. So lots of great resources for helping you with playing the guitar. Keep having fun, take care, and we'll see you again. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. For more in-depth lessons and to progress through a free guitar course, check out my Guitar 101 series on YouTube and my guitar method books, which all come with access to hours of in-depth video lessons. You can find more information about me and my products at kristenbromley.com. Take care.